A lot of people in the design industry will say like form follows function, and that's very true. Your form, how the product is, follows what functions you want it to have. But in my case, actually, for me, it's like form follows emotion because my product is very emotional. I have Teddy right here, little chubby guy with a belly. This is the first time that I designed actually, just because I still sleep with a teddy bear. I'm 24 and I still do that. Like customers who I have never talked to email me like, hey, I just got my lamp earlier this week and I must say it was worth the wait. But they waited for 6 months and I'm like, really? Even though it was really hard, I think it's a very motivating and inspiring journey even for myself.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin and
I'm Shane.
And today we're joined by my friend Chevy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Chevy, founder of Buddy Design.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show today, everybody. So Chevy has built a phenomenal company. She's done a lot of cool stuff, but the biggest things that we're going to get into is what the process was like going from idea, conceptualization, to building the product, logistical issues with the tariffs, and so much more. She's going to talk about her background in design, how she made her transition. And guys, get this, the coolest part is that she had always been this entrepreneur. She had been building this as a student before she got into it as a business. Guys, this is going to be a fascinating podcast. Make sure to tune in here to learn everything that she's got to offer. Chevy, if you're ready, go for it.
Hi, I'm Chevy. So I am actually building a design-oriented wellness startup here in New York City. The project actually started as my senior year thesis project at Parsons, where I went to design school. And at that time, I actually was like, I wanted to be a design consultant. That's a job that requires a lot of learning, a lot of fun, experience, and exposure to several industries. But the job market was actually really, really tough. So I unfortunately didn't get the job that I wanted. And when I was graduating, we all had a public exhibition showcasing our design projects. And not too long after that, I was working my first full-time job, which actually is terrible. But a lot of people emailed me and were like, hey, like, can we buy your prototype? We went to your thesis exhibition and we love it. But I was like, how can someone want that? Because it was like terrible. The light color was nothing like this. I spray painted it. There was lots of scratches on it. It was also like wall plugged, so not portable. So like that's insane. But then the more that I spent time working at my first full-time job, the more I feel like my brain was deteriorating. So it's like, I can't do this anymore. So on top of that 9 to 5, I spent like my 5 to 9, I guess, like researching how can I build this product. Luckily, we have a very good design network in New York City. So everyone was willing to meet me for coffee, help, and advise. And 3 months later, I somehow was like, okay, I'm going to quit. I found a possible manufacturer. I have someone who's willing to mentor me and guide me through the experience. And I think with how nice everyone is in the design industry, I was like, even if I don't have things figured out right now, I think I'll be fine. So I went from there, spent a year developing it, launched the pre-order last year in October, so October 2024. Sold around 400 lamps by that time. So up until now, we actually just launched last week. So our lamps are finally like in stock, and after like so much chaos and like just everything, we're just like trying to sell and see how that goes. But I think like because like the product like puts a smile on people's face, luckily, it's a very fulfilling experience just because like it's very hard, right, to build anything in general, even like software or hardware is especially hard because of all the logistics. But getting all the feedback from the past week of like, like customers who I have never talked to email me like, hey, I just got my lamp earlier this week and I must say like it was worth the wait. But they waited for 6 months and I'm like, really? But they were like, it must be a journey for you. And like, good luck for like everything. And thank you for all the communications in the past month. And I'm like, wow, like I can't believe someone would go out of their way to say that. So I think even though it was really hard, I think it's a very motivating and inspiring journey even for myself. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, you were kind enough to send me one, and I mean, this thing is great. For those of you that are watching this, you're gonna see this is my puppy right here. And
Hmm.
Chevy, we'll talk about what your different ones are. And I gotta say, one of the coolest things about being a parent is getting to enjoy things with your kid. Why this was such a win for me when you sent it over was because my daughter became immediately attached to this thing. I'm talking, she took it out of the box and I said, "No, it's mine. I want to see it." And she said, "No, my puppy." And then she started walking around the house with it. She brought it in the car with us. She wanted to bring it out to eat with us. Then when we got home, she needed to go to bed with it. Like, this thing has literally become like a puppy for her. And in the moments where I get to enjoy it, I like to keep it here in my office and just
Well,
be able to actually enjoy the lighting of it while I get some work done or just hang out. And so I think what you've created is more than a lamp. And maybe that's the thing that's why you're getting glowing reviews of it. You've created an experience for people because it's not just a lamp. Anybody could go out and get a lamp, but to
mhm.
have something that creates an experience, now that's something special. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind these designs. Why do you have what we got? We got Teddy, Puppy, and Arvin, right? So why
Yes.
why did you come up with these? How did you come up with the names? Are they people you knew in your life? Like, what's the inspo?
Yeah, so I have Teddy right here, little chubby guy with a belly. Um, this is the first time that I designed actually, just because like I still sleep with a teddy bear. I'm 24 and I still do that. And I just think that it's very comforting. Like I see lots of lamps and I think that I love lighting. I had a very shitty apartment when I was in school and I was like I don't like it. It feels claustrophobic. And I was very into like health, fitness. I still am. And then like I was like, yeah, but I'm already tired. Like why do I have to work so hard to like make myself feel better? Is there a effortless way to do that? And lighting became like an immediate answer for me, but then I was like my teacher, she's very like she asks very great questions that helps people think in terms of like where they want their project to be. And she was like, okay, well, if people are stressed, they wouldn't want to do anything. They would tend to disassociate with their surroundings. So how can we make people want to interact with something if we want them to feel better when they are stressed? Um, and because of that, so like anthropomorphic form, things that are friendly and fun, like first came to mind. So anything that, like that's why I wanted it to feel like a friend, feel like a buddy, because on top of it looking like a fun object, we want people to associate them with emotions and like feeling connected to the object itself. And then the winding key came, I guess that you changed the light color by like twisting the key. It came from the idea like okay, but like you don't want to just press on and that's it. There's no like real reward loop to make the act of turning on a lamp or changing a light color feel fun. So that's why I was like, okay, this form feels very nostalgic and probably intuitive for most people. And I was able to test that with like friends who are my age, which is kind of also my target audience and also kids. So that is how the design came about.
There's a lot of psychology that you're sharing too. Like,
Yes.
what, where did you get? And let's tell the audience a little bit because I'm curious
Mhm.
about this myself. Do you have data and information
Mhm.
and stats that kind of discuss some mental health benefits to having these lighting, I don't know, lighting solutions in their homes?
Yeah. Well, with a limited budget as a student at that time, I wasn't able to conduct, very thorough scientific research on colored lighting. So what I did was read a ton of psychology papers on colors and lighting and just try to combine the idea with the two. You know how like red light helps you with like melatonin production or like the color blue, if not like our phone blue light helps like make you feel more calm and like at ease. So I tried to incorporate that. And at
Mm.
first it was just like a solid ball with just one color, but I felt like that is kind of ugly. I was like, okay, let's strategically like combine two colors together in a way that feels more like softer. And that
Mm.
helps. And like, I think with anthropomorphic forms and like friend looking lamps in general, like we already like associate things with like teddy bear with something that we connect to. So there are like papers that backs that, but I wouldn't say that I am able to back my own product yet just because I don't have a scientist like do that for me. But I was actually able to send my initial prototypes to like 10, 15 people to test each for like 3 weeks and combine like feedback from them from like interviewing them, and was like, okay, let's like improve the initial designs based on what they see, and position the brand story and product story based off of that.
Love it.
So Chevy, you sold 400 units in October, at least from the start of October till the end of the year, and you had to do a lot of pre-orders in here. My first question is did you run like a Kickstarter campaign? Did you do any sort of marketing advertisements to that? I know there's a lot of people that have apparel companies and new actual product companies that are looking for ways to get themselves out there. Can you give us any advice or, any failures that you came into with your launch of your campaign to where you are now?
Yes. So at first I was thinking of doing Kickstarter just because they already have a solid fan base for any new products in general, and the understanding of how pre-order works is already there. So it kind of gives you a safety net. But then I read this one book on like launching a Kickstarter, and I was like, there has to be so much work on like marketing, running ads, and just like getting your product out there that is not just like simply posting on Kickstarter. So I was like, okay, like that might work, but the amount of effort that I need to put into to launch a Kickstarter campaign versus doing a pre-order on my own website is about the same. And the cost would actually be higher because they take 20% on the total amount of money you raise. So I think my decision there was there really is not much opportunity cost. Like I would go all in anyway and try to make it work regardless of what platform. Is just easier for me to control on my own website. So that's what I did. I basically just ran ads. It was kind of terrible because the cost of acquisition was like really high, but the thought process was just like, I want to prove demand, that people would actually spend money to buy the product. So I was kind of fine selling it for at cost to prove the demand first. And then once my goal is basically like once we launch, which is we just did last week, we would be slowly putting the price up and test how the price elasticity basically, and go from there. And I think like, what was your other part of the question?
So I think you answered it fully.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as a Kickstarter, I ran a company, shout out to Interstellar TCG card game, that was hosted through Kickstarter. And the pros of Kickstarter that we thought was to essentially promote it on Kickstarter and have that actual following. It did nothing for us. It didn't. Everybody who pledged from ours was everybody that we already grew the audience for. So I think you actually did it the right way and doing it organically and doing it yourself. Now you're a week old now, and you've lasted the trials and tribulations here for, since you did your pre-orders. What is your marketing strategy now that you are currently live?
Yeah, so since last October, where I was running more ads back then, at the start, I didn't really have a big online existence or enough content on social media to show who I am or give people like a very quick snapshot of the story. So that time, ads was a very heavy like part of the marketing strategy. But since then, I kind of stopped running ads because I was like, it's very expensive, and I don't think ads is it for the product at least. So my main marketing strategy right now is to grow on like UGC and affiliate marketing. The thought process is because like our products are very like visual, cute, and interactive. A lot of people that at least like have experienced it in person were like, this is very different from what I'm seeing online. Like it feels more substantial. I like the touch. I like how this feels and that feels. And my conclusion is that the photos or videos that I post alone won't do product justice. So it's a matter of like getting testimonials, reviews,
Brilliant.
and just seeing it from other people's perspective. So moving forward, I hope that, like my affiliate and like hopefully TikTok soon too will grow and help with the marketing itself.
So I got a question. I want to back it up a little bit because now we're talking marketing, talking strategy here, but there's something that I think is a really interesting thing that we completely overlooked. You made this thing. What does it take to be able to get a product from thought, inception, concept creation to finish? Like I'd be curious, like, and hopefully some of our listeners are curious too, is if they're interested in maybe building something or designing a product themselves. Can you just walk us through? I'm so curious about that process. What would that look like? What did that look like for you?
Well, luckily I have an industrial design background, so the product creation and design itself comes naturally for me. But if we were to start from scratch, you start with a problem, right? So like, what is the main problem you are trying to solve? What is already out there that like exists that solves that problem, but maybe you can identify a pain point that they haven't already done so, or a different like type of way to solve that problem that aims at the like specific customer group as well. So it's the problem, it's who you want to solve it for, and then that informs your design. A lot of people in the design industry will say like form follows function, and that's very true. Like your form, like how the product is, follows what functions you want it to have. But in my case, actually, for me, it's like form follows emotion because my product is very emotional, like leads with emotion. So from there, you like obviously start sketching and start building a prototype. But the hard part is actually that the prototype is just the starting point, because then you would have to go about finding the right manufacturer, knowing what it takes to actually manufacture it. Like I had 3 designs, and if honestly I were to do it again, I wouldn't do 3 because that tripled my cost in like setting up the production. So to find a manufacturer, I talked to several people. Like I was lucky to have referred to by these factories by like designers in the design industry in New York. So it was less of like scouting on Alibaba, hoping for the best. We asked them I asked them to like do like prototypes or like see how much it would cost to make the prototype, estimate unit cost and like the time. Like on top of that, I think the main thing is for you to read between the lines. Like, are they organized? How do they communicate with you? And like how much you think you can trust them, or if like we're on the same page of like the work thought process, and like if it's a mutually beneficial partnership. So that's like the longest process, because then you would have to work with developing the product itself with the manufacturer, which is quite different because sometimes your design would have to change because of the actual manufacturing limitations. So from there, like you pick one, you'd start developing the product, start building like molds or toolings that you need. And then that's like just one part of bringing it like to life.
That's the fun part.
Yes, that's the fun part. The hard part, actually for me, unlucky timing, is shipping it from my overseas manufacturer to the US. Because as we all know, there was like a tariff war going, and maybe it's still going on. I was like, what do I do? At the time that I was close to ship, it was like 145% tariffs. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like I'm already like not making enough money because I'm still pre-launch. And so like, what do I do? So that was the hard part. Luckily, when I imported everything, it was at 30%. Still not ideal, better than 145. But that part is like something that I had to learn. So this whole process was me learning everything from scratch as a designer who doesn't have any experience in business. I don't know if I answered everything, but that's the 2 main part that I can think of, that like how you bring your product from idea to reality.
See, the funny thing is
Mm.
overseas manufacturers, that's the cheapest way of going. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, great, that's the price. And then you talk about the shipping cost. Like when
Hmm.
we had our card game, it's how much for shipping? Oh, so I don't want to do it by plane. So I have to do it by ship. And it's going to take
Yes.
30 days to get to where
Yeah.
I'm at. And then I have to pay fees once
Hmm.
it's there. So it's things
Hmm.
you don't think of. You're going through it
Hmm.
now as a business owner. So
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like Vin's question, you got to, create the fun part. And then now you're like, oh, there's a whole business behind this that I have to figure out.
It is.
Um,
It is.
which it's good. That's what grows us as
Hmm.
entrepreneurs and business owners, is all the trials and tribulations again. So I want to know, as far as we talked about the marketing strategy, which I love, by the way. I think
Thank you.
it's congruent with where we're at in time right now. People are currently buying from people that they know, like, and trust. I think it's a phenomenal idea. I know that's your main focus, but
Hmm.
do you have any goals here in the next, not numbers wise, like any more designs, any cool other things that may come out within the next 6, 12 months that maybe you could share with us?
Um, I'm not sure yet because it's not super solid, but what I can share is that like my vision for Buddy is beyond just like a collection of cute like friend looking lamps. I
Oh,
think like the lamp itself and the company, because I'm like solo founder, I built everything, all the decisions and stories are what I want it to be.
hmm.
It really reflects who I am. Like surprisingly, I'm very into health, wellness, and just like, improving your quality of life. So my like I guess long-term vision is to build like a whole ecosystem of
Hmm.
products, both digital and physical. So like physical objects first with only like strategic digital enhancement that makes the products better to like help with your days, your routines, but in a way that is more like fun. So not like 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 sterile light that you need for winter like sad or depression, but like an activity, like a not a game, but all of that in like the most fun way possible. I don't have a full like clear picture of it, but that's what I'm thinking right now.
Hmm. I love that.
Huh. Well, let's talk, because as someone who's very massively into wellness, I would love to learn, how does your own wellness journey impact this? Like, in fact, is there something that you can also speak on for the listeners that can inspire their own wellness journeys? Because as founders,
Hmm.
I think one of the most important things that we can do is take care of ourselves.
Mhm.
And so I feel like there's a lot in this buddy that you're not even scratching the surface, right? Like, it's a fun design. It's meant to help bring out calmness. It's inspired through your own wellness journey. There's a level of connection. Like, this thing is so freaking much, but talk a little bit more about the wellness journey and how that impacts your life as a founder.
Yeah, for some reason, I've also always been into fitness, so I like going to the gym. I find that it's been very therapeutic for me,
Hmm.
and like sometimes, like I even choose going to the gym over meeting up with my friends. And I'm
Hmm.
sorry, sometimes you will get mad at me
Sounds like
for
Vin.
that. But like I first got into working out because I wanted to be in shape as like a young student back in high school. But then the more I tried to like be good at working out, if that even makes sense, like the more you realize that it's all about intentional micro movements. So like meditation or mindfulness in a way, like when you're like lifting some weights, you have to make sure that all your postures are right, your shoulders are back are like in the right position so you don't end up hurting yourself. And like when you're in that thought process, you're kind of like visualizing how your body works and also like kind of like in the zone. So every time I come out of a gym session, I feel like I've done like a 30-minute or even like an hour meditation when I was just like actively moving my body, and it feels really good about it. And especially with like me working on Buddy alone, like my time has been even more valuable than I thought it would be. So I'm trying to like optimize how I spend my time, my productivity, like mental clarity, and even like make my sleep as efficient as possible, which is not as bad as it sounds. Um, so with that, I think everything in our lives, it plays a part to how you perform, like your mood, your happiness, and that's why I feel like well-being, mental health, physical health is very important. And I think I'm trying to reflect that in Buddy in like the least intimidating way possible, so that people don't feel like I'm telling them to do something as like a mom or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love how multifaceted the lamp is, right? And just I think the biggest thing that's fascinating about all of this, or about even just your company in general, is that it just seems to really capture the essence of you. You've built something that is an extension of yourself, and I think as founders and entrepreneurs, that's one of the biggest things that we can all strive to do. So I love how you encapsulated it so well in your own product. That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Chevy, we got a few more questions for you. Typically we like to ask a few like traditional things here.
Mm-hmm.
One being this, our show is called the 1% Podcast. And it is not the 1% Podcast because we're billionaires, but it's the 1% Podcast because of the fact that we believe there is a 1% version of everything and everyone in life. So the question for you is, what is your version of a 1% lifestyle? How are you striving to be great?
Oh, that's a very hard question. Um, for me, I think what I'm actually trying to build or grow into for myself, the 1% is okay. Well, like, preface is that I'm a very competitive person, not with other people, but with myself. I hold myself to a very high standard that even like, okay, my parents are Asian, well, I'm Asian, and tiger parents, they stopped being a tiger parents as soon, like, not long after I started Buddy. From saying like, hey, you should wake up early, like, or earlier, or sleep sooner, they're like, you should go out more, get some rest, or stop working as much. Because the more I grow up, like I am trying to like adulting and everything, I think that I want to be successful in every areas of life. And sometimes people mistake it for like you want to be rich and like earn a lot of money. But I just want to build something that I'm very happy with, something that is at scale that makes an impact to people in a way that's like I can see it. And somehow, that translates into building a business. But not just that, because I don't think, your life is not just about making money and like owning a business. It's also about how happy you are, how healthy you are. So I guess like the 1% for me is to have all those things achieved in myself in at the level that I'm super happy with. And I think that's kind of hard because that means you're balancing every aspect of your life and like making it the best it can be. Yeah.
I love it. I think that's a great answer. So this might actually follow in suit then with that, because the next question that I have for you is this: what would you say has been one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
Ooh, luckily it's from my dad, so shout out to him. He kept saying that like, yes, like we have to grow and we have to be successful and that's what we want, but you don't get there by running a sprint. So you have to take things one step at a time. And every time I struggle and every time like having some mental breakdown of like, this is too much, I can't do this, he'll be like, oh, well, you learn and you grow and you take 2 steps out, like forward. But then sometimes you fail, so you just take 1 step backwards. But that doesn't mean you took, like, you're like behind from where you were like a week ago or a day ago. So every time there's a setback, you've already learned something. So just try to take it like 1 step at a time. Like sometimes, like my goal feels unachievable because it's so big, but then like to make it more manageable, even for like my thought process and feeling like I can handle it, just break it down into what can I do right now in the short view, like near term, midterm, and long term. And that makes it a lot better.
I like that. That's really good planning. All right, Chevy. Final question for you here. Can you tell us how people could get in touch with you, or how they could go get their own buddies and start building their own empire of puppies and all these great other things? And what can they do to get a little more in your ecosystem and become a part of the trending community?
Well, I am trying to build my online presence on Instagram. So people can follow me on Instagram via like Chevy. Like you can link it in the bio, I hope. Yeah, you can follow
just
me
say,
on
go follow me on Instagram. Link is in the bio.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. You can also find Buddy on Instagram. We have a lot of influencers posting and like how they style and interpret their buddy there. So that would be a great place to find inspiration. And if you want a buddy lamp of your own, feel free to find us at buddydesign.co on our website. It's like, you can also link it in bio.
I love it.
She's doing your job, Vin.
It's okay. That's, somebody's got it. It's not me. So
yeah, but I'm very like active. So if they want to talk to me and like see, like want me to answer questions like how I built Buddy or any questions they might have about the product, just feel free to DM me and I'll be there.
Awesome. Well, Chevy, thanks so much for coming on the show today, sharing about your journey, your story, what you've built. And I really, really hope that people start looking more into this, because first up, as a former gamer, lighting is everything. You can't game in subpar lighting. I mean, it's just not how it works. And so I've been a big fan of this. I love what you've built. Shane obviously loves it too, because now he's going to have 2 buddies at his house. And yeah, it's just been a great time having you here. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, of course. Well, guys and gals, there you have it. This is another episode of the 1% podcast. Make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, comment, connect with us and Chevy, and go get yourself a buddy today. As always, I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And that was Chevy. See you, everybody.